Hello, techies. How are you all? Hope you are everyone doing good. So, welcome back to my channel, Tech with Tony. As I told you that last time, I just today we're going to discuss about the validations that we are going to handle with the get HTTP method, like in front of request params and path variables. So, please watch my previous videos if you are not watched or till now, because these videos will help us to understand the concept which you are going to explain now. Okay, coming to the concept that we are going to use is like, so there are some cases like you need to validate the inputs which are coming from the users. Desperately, we should handle those. We should do their validations. So we should not accept whatever they are sending, right? In order to validate those, we have some process that we need to follow before you go ahead with the validations. So these validations allow us to have a proper data to be inserted into database or else to be sent over to downstream and upstream services. So for that, what we exactly need to do, there are like 3 steps I just mentioned in the document. So the first thing is like add the dependency in the POM file with the Hibernate validated dependency. So let me open the POM.xml. So here's the dependency. So if you wanted to know where to exactly you need to copy, where exactly you should get it. So simply search it in the internet, like over the internet, like the Maven dependency for the Hibernate validator, or else you can get this repo from my GitHub repository. That's pretty easy for you. And after that, you should annotate the controller class with the @validated. So we're saying the Spring Boot like, hey, you should validate the whatever the validations I'm going to do for you. So let me maximize this one. So hope you're all able to see the screen now properly. So @validated. So these classes are like the previously we created the classes, but only thing is like I'm just annotating with the @validated. Okay. The next step is like we had to create a class extending with the response entity exception handler. So exception handler, this I will explain a bit later, but for now you just have a mind like we should have one class extending with the response entity exception handler. So exception handler is a framework or to handle exceptions and Spring Boot. It's a beautiful framework. And the way we handle exceptions in core Java level, this is way advanced than the handling exceptions. So exception handler is like one of the frameworks that was introduced inside the Spring Boot. Okay, I'll explain a bit later about this one. For now, you just keep in mind that we're going to create a class extending response entity exception handler, and make sure that you annotate with the controller advice and one method, whatever the method you have, like whatever the method you can create, but you should annotate with the exception handler annotation. Okay, so just say the bad request. So what exactly it does is like whenever any exceptions comes, whenever any validations need to be done at the level of controller level, so the controller advice, right? So this controller advice will route those kind of exceptions and try to pop up this exception interceptor. So for those particular unknown exceptions, so it's literally gives us the bad request in our postman. Yeah, this is all about like the steps we just involved for validations. Um, and most widely used annotations for the request params and path variables are not empty, size, min, max, and null. So the names are pretty straightforward. Not empty, that means any query param or also request param or path variables which you are sending, that should not contain any empty. And size, the size matters, like how much the length it needed. This is the size with the combination of min and max annotations. So I'll show you that I have written the code for that same. And min and max, if you are having an integer value, so there are some cases like you really need to validate the age limit. for the user. So user need to give the age for his. So as if he's minor or a major, so we'll give a minimum age is 18 and maximum is 100, something like that. So validate the age. That's one of the scenario, but there are like a lot more scenarios for using this min and max annotations. And not blank is something, there is a difference between not empty and not blank. So not blank is something like it should not allow the like space bar or something. If you type the space bar in front of argument or something, it's something there is a blank. It's not empty really. These two are pretty, a bit like typical ones, like empty and not blank. No problem. Then we jump onto the program. So for that, I took that RequestParams and PathVariables.java controller to explain this example, because we are going to use it for the HTTP method, like get HTTP method, right? So if you see that, like this is a previous program only, argument one, I said like not empty, not empty. And I'm saying that the size, I told you that the annotation size, so minimum 10 and max is 200. So size minimum 10 and 200. The argument which value is sent inside using this argument, it should not less than 10 and it should not max from 200 characters. That's what it is saying that. Okay. And the argument, the other argument is age. As I took the scenario for the age limitation, right? So minimum value equals 18 and max value equals to 150, saying that age should not be less than 18 and age should not be greater than 150. And then another annotation for validation is not blank, so saying that these argument does not contain any blank. And just to to habituate with the response entity in our further sessions, we're going to use this response entity. So and we also use HTTP statuses for the proper HTTP status and proper HTTP JSON way of response to be produced using response entity. So I'll explain you a little bit later, like what is this response entity and what is this HTTP status. So for now, I just use this, and I have created a string response. This is just a model class is having only one response. Okay, hold on. I don't know where are these getter setters? Like since I'm using this, set response. So what happened to these setters getters? Why I have not created these setter getters in this response, right? I only created a variable. For that, like you can see that I just annotated with at the rate data. This data comes from the Lombok package. This is the another dependency to reduce the boilerplate code. When I say boilerplate code, that might be a different terminology for you, but to reduce these unnecessary creation of getters and setters. Assume that you have a bunch of like 20 like 20 variables in a model class. So you should create a 20 getter setters, and this by seeing this model class, it's not be a very visible, right? So it's always like it's very clumsy that you having all these getters and setters in one model class. And so if you read it now like this, it's a simple response variable, but there is no getter setters. It looks a pretty minimalized lines of piece of codes here. But if you use Lombok, it's very advantages like you don't need to create getters and setters that Spring Boot creates. Have those getter setters automatically. Okay, so for that, what you need to do is we have a dependency like Lombok dependency. You should have it, and then you should what you need to do, where else like the Spring Suite tool suite is installed, you should add this Lombok jar to that profile. There's IDE tools profile. Then only this Lombok works. If you really don't know like how do we deals with the Lombok dependency, if it is not working in your IDE tool, just give me comments. I'll explain you how do you do this and set up this Lombok for your system. Okay. right? So this is all about like request param and path variables validations part. So let's run the program now. So I'll keep replicate these validations for now, each one how it has happened. Let me do this for the argument one, how it works. So as of now, this is a positive scenario. Yeah, the expectation is there is no, there is an exception. You see this status is 202 accepted. So this is coming from this one, from this response entity. Or else like if you wanted to do something different, dot okay. So you always, this always deals with the, okay, wait, let it restart it. Yeah, restart it. 200, okay, right? It's a beautiful, right? So you are able to create your own response codes with this response entity, yeah, instead of just returning a string like this. So let's replicate this validation. It says it's not empty. So what I will do, I'll remove this one. Let's see. Okay. Must be 10 to 200 characters. Okay. So it's saying that it's supposed to be, so this validation popped up like size 10, because if you want to have this not empty, this, let me remove this validation size one. Let's try to bring it up. Yes. Let me do it now. Okay, now see, I'm not passing anything to the argument one. Must not be empty. So you see that there is no space between equals and ampersand symbol, right? You see that there is no space. It's taking is empty now. Okay, so this not empty, it deals with that. So when I click that, it's saying that must not be empty, correct? This is the way. If you give some space, and it's going to consider like some space on, and it will take over to the next step. You're getting a response. So what you want to replicate this one, something they were giving, but it is not the proper way, like this equals and there is no space or something in the argument. Even so, the space considered as something is there, so something which is not empty, right? So if you want to do this not empty, you should not pass anything. You make sure that there is no space after this equivalent and ampersand symbol. Boom, must not be empty. Invalid input parameter. You see this invalid input parameter. This is not coming from controller. Okay, this is coming from our class called interceptor, exception interceptor, which we created. You see this one? Invalid input parameters and e.get message. Correct? So it's saying the sample argument one must not be empty. This is a beautiful one where you have a bad request here. If a bad request HTTP status code is 400, the same HTTP status code 400 is coming from that controller advice class. So the purpose of this exception interceptor is to deal with the proper exception messaging to the end user. Okay, let's jump onto the our controller again. So when I come back here, so now let me put that instead of not empty, I'll use this size annotation now. So I'll keep as something called T symbol, and it says this about me must be 100 and 200 characters, 10 and 200 characters. So back with Tony. Yeah, it's accepts now. So now this is about the non-empty and size annotations. Now let me replicate this age validation with the min and max. So I'll put like 10. Let's see. Yeah, it should not be less than 18. Right? Less than 18. And I'll put this as like 151. It's not greater than 150. Yeah, it works. The validations are working fine perfectly. All right, and now let's put this not blank. How do we deal with the not blank? I'll make it as positive way, this one. I'm just giving a space over here, you see. So when you give a space, so it says like it's a blank value going to the controller. And what about the not empty? When you're not giving any space or anything, you're just passing out as is, then it's called as called as not empty. And there is a new, when you sending a space or some spaces into this argument 3, that comes as a not blank, and then it not. So it's validating the blank. It's considering this as a blank, and it is validating. Yeah, this is all about this session, and this is about like path. Even these validations will work with this path variable. I just illustrated with this, to the request params. If you are pretty much interested, you go ahead and use these validations with the path variables also. In my next session, I'm going to explain you that how do we validate the body for the post input methods. Then following with that session, I'll be, you know, creating a service class, and I'll be adding some values and to the model class and displaying them in the Postman. And then after that, we'll deal with some any one of the NoSQL database, how that NoSQL database connected using Spring Boot and all. Thanks for watching my videos, and please encourage me, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and make sure that you click the bell icon that you will get my notifications when I upload my video. See you then. Take care, everyone. Bye.